So welcome again, everyone. I am going to talk about something that I have talked about twice before. Once when we were live, and once on Zoom. And it's inspired by this book, which you may or may not have, called A Complaint-Free World. And it turns out that the author, Will Bowen, was a Unity minister in Kansas City, right next to Unity Village. And since the publishing of that book in 2006, I just checked his website last night, over 13 million people have ordered what is kind of the centerpiece of the centerpiece of the work is about not complaining, but the main tool are these wristbands. If you order them from him, they are purple. So I highly encourage you to order a wristband from him, and he might send you some other materials as well. And it's such an important topic. That's why I'm talking about it again. And I must confess that the reason why is because I notice myself, I've been doing more than my fair share of complaining lately. And what is fair share anyway of complaining? Like, do we have a fair share of complaining? That's to be argued. And last night I was thinking, what is the opposite of complaining? I think the opposite of complaining is gratitude. I'm part of this text group, this people that send out gratitudes now and then to each other, to the group, via text. And it's such a wonderful, affirming thing. And I was thinking, what if there were a text group about complaining? Would people join that? No, because it's a bummer. And I actually looked on Facebook for complaint groups, and there actually is the gripe and complaint page on Facebook. It's a public group with only 15 members. And it says, want to bitch and moan about something? Do it here. And I just thought that was so funny. But they don't need a complaint group, because if you look on Facebook comments, a lot of those are complaining. And on Twitter, I don't know, that maybe it's just the DNA of Twitter, it's much worse. It is just, complaining is paramount. But this idea of complaint-free, is that really real? Is that really realistic? And I have to be honest, and I will say, no, I don't think zero complaining for the rest of our lives is realistic. But my goal in life is not to never complain, but I want to reduce my complaining drastically. So how can we reduce our complaining drastically if we can't even be complaint-free for a day? Not complaining for one day. I remember when we first started this program, when we were live, there were a few of us. I think Deanna had reached maybe 8 days, and there was Sarah who reached 10 days, and some others here may want to share during social time afterwards about how many days you reached. But I remember I would be on day 1.5, and then whoops, I would complain, and I would have to put myself all the way back to day 0. So complaining, not complaining is not easy. But so powerful is this concept of being complaint-free that the author says, in your hands, you hold the secret to transforming your life. And the subtitle says, how to stop complaining and start enjoying your life, the life you always wanted. So what is there behind this non-complaining that is so transformative? You must begin with the definition, of course, that we can define complaining differently. And it's not just a complaint in your mind. For purposes of measuring the complaints, he is saying that a complaint is a spoken expression of grief, pain, or discontent. And by the author's definition, it extends to gossip and criticism. So I was thinking, well, for many people who the traditional gathering around the water cooler or whatever it is. I don't think that even happens anymore, but you know what I mean. But it makes you question, what are we going to talk about then? You talk about the weather, what do you replace that with? And I'm going to be talking about that a little bit. But back to some examples of complaining. They can be as small as, oh, I've got a headache. I've got the worst headache in the world. Look at what Biden is doing now. Look what Trump is saying now. The nation is headed to hell in a handbasket. Putin is going to dominate the world. Maybe that's not a complaint. Maybe that's just a statement. How about this one? He never cleans his room. He never cleans the kitchen. She's such a neat freak. And there are also expletives that in themselves can be a complaint, I think, or the combo of expletive followed by a complaint. Speaking of expletives, and those are the ones that are subconscious, I think, at least for me, those are the ones that are subconscious, especially when you're driving, right? So speaking of expletives and driving, you may remember comedian George Carlin, and he said something that I just think is it's funny because it's true. He said, anybody driving slower than you is an idiot, and anyone going faster than you is a maniac. So, he's there on stage and he's saying, there's this car that passes him, God, idiot. And then he slams on brake, you maniac, and, or whatever words you want to use. But it's an illustration of something else. It's an illustration of, hey, we think we're right in the middle. And in fact, there was a survey done that most people thought that they were driving the correct speed most of the time. And it just can't be, that everyone is driving the correct speed at all the time. And they think, maybe that their driving is right and everyone else's driving is wrong if they're going a different speed. And what else could this extend to? This could extend to many areas of your life. It could extend to any area of your life where you think that you're right and they're wrong, and therefore what happens? A complaint. So let's come back to a complaint-free world. The author of this book, Will Bowen, said that negative thoughts, especially complaints, are not helping. In fact, they perpetuate the problem. What problem? All problems. In fact, if you think of every complaint as a prayer, and I don't know if Will Bowen said this, but he was a minister, so he could have. But be thinking about a complaint as a prayer. I'll never get a raise at this company, and so it is. I'll never find the right life partner, and so it is. Putin is never going to stop here, and so it is. I'm not worthy, and so it is. So if prayers are just focused thought, what are you focusing your thoughts on? And I will posit that most of us are probably thinking negatively way too much. According to the National Science Foundation, and this is some research that I found a few years ago, the average person has about 60,000 thoughts per day. And of those, 80% are negative thoughts and 95% are repetitious thoughts. So but think about this pile over here of just thoughts that keep on piling up and piling up. And then you're going back to that pile, every hour to repeat thoughts over and over again. And most of those are negative, and the positive pile is about this big. So once again, if prayer is just focused thought, what we are manifesting then may not be what we want. I was thinking, some of you are reading about Michael Beckwith, and Michael Beckwith has often talked about this book and this author. This is called Power and Force by David Hawkins. And it's a little bit older of a book because Wayne Dyer, I forgot where he said it. Wayne Dyer said this is one of the more significant books that he has ever read. Oh, here it is. Perhaps the most important and significant book I've read in the past 10 years, says Wayne Dyer. And why is it significant and important? Because David Hawkins did some research and he posits, ironically, that positive thoughts are much more powerful than negative thoughts. And he used a scientific technique to measure the power of these thoughts. Now, I don't know the details about that, but the message that got around, it started getting around at Agape International Spiritual Center, was that our positive thoughts can override negative thoughts. So just think about if we increase our positive thoughts a little bit more, we can really affect change in the world. And this reminds me of what Anita Morjani was saying the other night when she said that thoughts and messages of fear and negativity are not where the essential truth is. Truth is really in the affirmative messages, the foundational truth messages. You know that they're true. And that's what prayer is centered around at Unity, affirming the truth. So all this said, though, we complain for a reason. Sometimes it just feels good because it brings us relief of some kind. Sometimes we get attention, right? And sometimes that can be probably a survival skill, right? And maybe if you go back to Neanderthal times, maybe it was a survival skill, but we don't need that anymore. And complaining is just a habit. I was thinking, I grew up in a household where there was a lot of complaining, and my mom complained a lot. And so what did I do? I remember as a teenager complaining a lot about my mom. And my dad would turn to me and he would say, well, we were driving and I was complaining about something my mom did. And he said, just bite your lip. But he didn't explain why. And I didn't understand because I thought it was a sign of weakness. I thought he was just enabling. But now I understand that he didn't want to perpetuate the complaining about my mom. And so I thank him for that. So what was your environment growing up? How ubiquitous was complaining? And thinking about changing complaining, you talk about, it is often said that changing our minds about something rewires the brain because the brain carries its signals on neurons, which are highly neuroplastic. By definition, they are capable of change. So thinking differently over time is literally rewiring the connections in your brain. They say that the synapses that fire together wire together. So when you're thinking more positively than you were last week, your brain is changing its very structure, its very energetic foundation, where it's habitually going with its connections. And that's a wonderful thing. So remember, the author said that this book was going to change your life. And he said that stopping complaining transforms your life. In fact, he said, complaining is an epidemic that is destroying our happiness, our relationships, our health, our success. And the problem that most people aren't even aware of is the fact that they are complaining. That's the problem, awareness. So stopping complaining will transform your life, because into the void that you create of not complaining, you have to put something there. And it usually ends up being kindness. So what if we envision a world where you're not blaming anyone, where you're taking responsibility where you can, where you're creating ideas and solutions instead of just complaining. I mean, just think if Congress did this instead of trying to backstab each other and complaining. Think about how often Congress complains. You just have to look at some sound bites and read the news. And when it's one of our leaders talking, like especially at the congressional level, it's mostly complaining about the other side. They have to get that messaging in there. And it's not affirmative and ideas and solutions based. In fact, they say that some of the parties are just abandoning having a platform at all. The platform that is their vision about what they're about, that some of the parties are saying, we don't even need that anymore. We just need to attack the other side and complain about the other side. And that is a shame. So if we can all raise the vibrational frequency of us one at a time, then we can change our local environment. We can change our family. We can change our small community in this room. And we can change the country, the state, the nation, and perhaps the world. And this is the butterfly effect. We can't think that a positive gesture, a positive thought is not going to go unanswered in the universe. That's the butterfly effect. And last night I thought of another wonderful payoff to not complaining. It's trust. Wouldn't you rather have someone in your inner circle that doesn't complain? Because maybe you have a feeling that when you leave the room, if they're just a habitual complainer, they're complaining about you, right? Because they're just always complaining. So I know some people in this community that really model well. Some of them are on the board that really model well complaint-free world. And it really is it's a tool. When I start to complain, they don't jump on the bandwagon with me like my family used to, right? That's the expected behavior. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh God, yeah. They just kind of pause in silence for a second. Do you know anybody like that? That when you complain, there's just this little gentle pause, and it says this. It just basically says, they're not judging you. They're just choosing not to jump on the complaint bandwagon because they don't believe in complaining. And to me, it's just been the biggest teacher having people like that in my inner circle. So how can you be more of that person for other people in your life? So the last part of my talk will be, how do we do it? There are many ways that we can do it, but the author said awareness is the key. And so this wristband is something that you can get any wristband or whatever you want to do, and just you put it on and you're on day one. And when you complain, you switch to the other side. And I'm over here and I'm on day one again. And let's say I make it to the third day without complaining, and I complain because I got out on the freeway. I'm back to day one. I have to switch to the left hand. Okay, and it's an incredible tool because you'd be amazed how difficult it is. The hardest day is day one, the entirety of day one. As I see some of you shaking your heads in agreement. It's an amazing tool, and I highly recommend it. In fact, the author recommended going for 21 days complaint-free. During the sharing time, you can tell me if you've ever gone 21 days complaining. I really, really admire that. My goal is to go a few days complaint-free and to revisit this periodically, because I will fall into old habits if I don't. There are a few more tools that I would suggest. One is find a complaint buddy. There was someone I used to talk to a lot, and they would say, I think you need to change your complaint. I think you need to change your complaint band. Don't say, you always complain, you're such a complainer, because that's a complaint, right? So another tool is think about the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, because then that puts you in the place of responsibility. Can I change it? Yes, then change it. If I cannot change it, then don't complain, because you can't change it. But it puts you in this space of responsibility. If it's something that you can change, affect that change. Another great idea is to start a gratitude practice. You don't have to be in a gratitude text group. That would be fun, but start a gratitude journal. And I know gratitude is talked about so often, so often. Don't let that dissuade you from going there in terms of having gratitude be a major spiritual practice for you. Because when I was doing drum circles, even for corporations, I used to have a time for gratitude in the drum circle. And I said, gratitude, I think this was originally from Wayne Dyer, is the quickest way to change consciousness. Just like Wayne Dyer also said, a complete prayer is thank you. Thank you. To whatever the God of your understanding is, thank you, thank you. And, BJ says that a lot when she prays, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that energy is capable of transforming, especially if you're having trouble sleeping. They say, instead of counting sheep, count little gratitudes jumping over the fence instead of sleep. And I've told people this: you will not make it to 25 gratitudes without falling asleep most of the time. It's so powerful, because once again, it's the opposite of negativity. It's the opposite of anxiety. It's the opposite of all those things. When you're in gratitude, it'll take you right out of that space. So I'll close with the final thought about how to stop complaining. And this comes from Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was known as the teacher of teachers in New Thought. She taught Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. She taught Emily Cady. She taught Nona Brooks, the founder of Divine Science, and she taught Ernest Holmes, the founder of Religious Science, aka Science of Mind. And one important thing that they all learned from her was this quote: if I were to be asked directly as to the quickest way to get your healing power going, I would probably say, praise everything and everyone in your mind. Praise everything and everyone in your mind. So try that on, and things will change. So let's take a moment to pray. I'm so grateful for this awareness. I'm so grateful for this profound shift that can be made just by changing a few negative thoughts into positive thoughts. I'm so grateful for seeing the world through new eyes when I do this. Stepping into a new way of being, rewiring my brain. I'm so grateful for the ability to change my neurochemistry just by consciously deciding this, to praise everything and everyone, knowing that all is well. There's no one to blame. I hold this truth for myself. I hold this truth for everyone in my circle. I hold this truth for the world, a complaint-free world. I call this good. I'm allowing this to happen. I'm allowing this to happen in small ways and in big ways in my life. And so it is.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, I go inside and quiet my mind. I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love.
Now let's go within for meditation. As we begin this meditation, release the cares of the day. Be present and be at ease with yourself. Take a few deep breaths until you find yourself fully present here. Let the air from your breathing move all throughout your body, deeply within. Feeling the air around your heart, bring your attention to the sacred heart space, allowing energy to flow in and around your heart. This deep radiance at the center of you shines and expands further and further in all directions. touching all things until this light is beyond all you can see or imagine. Linger here, watching this light for just a few moments. Now become aware of your feet beneath you, connecting you to the earth in grounded presence. Let your roots stretch down into the earth, feeling your presence with all of earth. Stay in this awareness for a few minutes. Bring your attention back up to your heart, your radiating center of love and light. There is nothing to say, nothing to do. This right now is all that you are and ever have been. Now in this moment as one. Gently return to this time and place. As you open your eyes, become aware of your surroundings. And so it is.